All right, welcome back to another installment of Hot Routes and Hot Takes. Today it is 7 o'clock. It's right before the college football championship game, so we'll get into that first. Um, just go quickly into it. Uh, just talk about my predictions for the game. So it looks like the money line is with Alabama to win this one. Um, it said something about 86% of the money was towards Alabama to win. I kind of like that as well. This Ohio State team's been pretty inconsistent, and I think if you get Justin Fields out of his element, it'll show that. So I got Alabama winning as well. Now Alabama against the spread's a little tougher. It's 8.5. Um, I think Ohio State will want to keep this a close game, and I think they have the ability to. Um, but again, if they take away Justin Fields' first read and they disguise coverage packages, I think it's going to be really hard for him. On top of that, Alabama should be getting back Jalen Waddle. So, um, yeah, I'll take Alabama. I think they probably win by 10 or something like that. Um, in the over under 74.5. So, um, yeah, I'll go with the over. I think it'll probably end up being something like a 48 to 48-35, something like that. Uh, so now that we got that out of the way, let's get into some mock drafting. Let's see, here's what I want. Awesome. So we'll go just the screen right now, just so everyone can see it. So we're going to do no trades again for the second time in this mock draft. I think next week we'll probably go ahead and get some trades in, but I wanted this one to be a little bit shorter. So I think that's what we'll end up doing. Just like all of them, we will be controlling all the teams, and I will be doing what I would do as the general manager, not necessarily what I think the team will do. Especially since a lot of these teams don't have their coaching staff in place or their general manager in place. It's a little bit different. All right, so let's get into this. So, Jaguars up at number one. We think they're probably going to need a new quarterback, especially with the new GM and coach coming into play. Um, a lot of the stuff with the Deshaun Watson's rumors. Um, we're just going to play it out since um, since the Houston Texans don't have a first round pick. I think for this week, since trades can't happen for another 3 weeks, we're just going to play it out as if uh, Deshaun Watson meets with the new GM Casario from he was the dude in New England. So we'll play it out like they meet up and they like each other and he doesn't want to trade. So with that being said, there are still a couple quarterbacks probably out there on the market. Stafford, I think Stafford's going to stay though. Guys like Sam Darnold who don't have first round talent anyways. And number 6, Philly. They're probably not getting a quarterback here, but I do think Carson Wentz goes, so we can make it interesting there. But needless to say, let's just put Trevor Lawrence at 1 because I I'd be shocked if they pivoted from that. All right, a lot of rumors talking about Jets. I think Sam Darnold's going to be their guy. I don't believe it, so we'll take the second best quarterback here, which is going to be Justin Fields. A lot of hype around Zach Wilson, a lot of hype around Trey Lance. I like Trey Lance as a prospect, but if you want a quarterback to succeed year one, it's Justin Fields. Out of all three of those, I think Zach Wilson has a lot of flaws, and there's actually some character concerns as well. So Justin Fields is the best guy for the job there. Um, let's see. Going into the Miami Dolphins pick. Hey Brandon, how are you? Going into the Miami Dolphins pick. If this was if we could trade in this, I'd be trading back. Since we can't trade in this, unfortunately, it's gonna be best player available. Obviously, they need a weapon. Right now, you've got Jamar Chase or Jalen Waddle as the top two guys there. I think that'd be a big reach. At 3, obviously, so I want us to trade back probably to around 12 spot and see who we can get there. But if we're sticking to it, we're going to get a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. So let's get Penei Sewell. Let's see. So another thing I think quarterback on the move is going to be Matt Ryan. I don't think he'll go this year. I think next year is probably when he'll go. They do have a lot of needs on the defense. And they could also shore up some skilled positions as well because it looks like Julio might be leaving. But we can make it interesting. They don't think they'll be picking in the top 5 again, so we can get them a quarterback. There's Zach Wilson on the board, but I like Trey Lance better, especially since he only has, I think, 300 pass attempts in the FCS level, but he looks very good. So just sitting behind Matt Ryan for 1, maybe 2 years be really beneficial for him. And I think his ceiling's a lot higher than Zach Wilson. So we'll go ahead and drop off Trey Lance at number 4. This I think is going to be a QB high draft here, just since we're not doing any trades. So another one. This one's the Bengals. I think they're actually a team that might be looking to trade up to get this Penei Sewell. But if they don't, they're probably looking to trade back because they do need some cornerbacks and they do need a little bit of help since AJ Green is on a franchise tag. They probably won't re-sign him. So they might need some wide receiver help for their young Joe Burrow at quarterback, as well as help out on the defense. But I think realistically they should probably get him more protection, so they would be trading back in a mock draft where we can actually trade. So probably next time they'd be taking a tackle. I kind of still want to give them a tackle here. Edge rusher, there's not really anyone that I see as a top 5 pick. I like Kwity Paye, and I also like Greg Rousseau out of Miami. But in 2 different schemes, I don't know what scheme they're actually running. I believe it's a 4-3. So Kwity Paye would fit it nicely. But I think let's just give him a tackle again. Let's give him Darrisaw. I like Darrisaw as a prospect, and he's got some room to build as well. So give him Darrisaw. Let's see what they can make of that offensive line for Joe Burrow. All right, number 6. We are going with the Eagles. They just fired their coach too, so they will be looking for a new coach. They probably will still go after quarterback in this draft, just not in the 1st or 2nd round, since Jalen Hurts looks like he is doing well. So I'd expect them to trade Carson Wentz and get another quarterback, probably 3rd, 4th, 5th round in this draft, just to get some competition for that young quarterback. So right now it's probably get him another weapon, get him some defensive help. Micah Parsons is sitting on the board, and I don't think I need to talk much more. I think Micah Parsons is the pick there. That's an easy one. Okay. Next, we've got the Lions. They can either... So right now, basically all their wide receivers are going to be walking out the door. I think they're only having like 20 receptions returning, 40 receptions. That's not a tight end returning. So all their wide receivers are leaving. Matt Stafford's not getting any younger, but I think they'll probably keep him. So we'll get him a weapon. So now you've got field stretchers. You can get Jamar Chase, who is a bigger body receiver that's also fast, has some drop issues, or you can get a speedster, Jalen Waddle, who they're calling Tyreek Hill Jr. Let's get him a speedster. I'm not a big Jamar Chase fan, so put Jalen Waddle on there, see if that makes them a little happy. What do you think possibilities of Pats trading up, maybe trading Gilmore to Cincy? Ooh. I think for Cincinnati, it would take more than... If you're saying that they trade the 16th pick and Gilmore to 5, or 15th, I guess. They're sitting at 15. If they trade the 15th pick to Cincinnati and Stephon Gilmore, I think they'd probably have to put something else in there as well. Maybe... I think that's pretty close, though. So maybe something like next year's 2nd and this year's 5th or something like that. They're going to have like 4 third-round picks, I think is what I was reading into, but that's not unlikely. I think that's actually kind of close. You might have to give up a pick next year and a late pick this year. You might even swap 5th-round picks or something like that. But yeah, that's plausible. I kind of like that. So if they traded up to 5, let's stop the mock draft just for a second to go through this hypothetical. If they trade up to 5, what would they be looking for? Is that because they want Jamar Chase at wide receiver? Is that because they want Micah Parsons? Or is it trading up to get a guy like Kwity Paye, who doesn't really fit their scheme very well? That's the only part I'm confused about. If they really like a quarterback. Yeah, if they really like a quarterback, because realistically, getting up to 5 will get you probably the 3rd quarterback or the 4th quarterback. It might, if they want a guy like Justin Fields is going to be a top 3 pick. There's a problem there. Trevor Lawrence is already number 1. I really don't see them swaying from that. If they want a guy like Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, I mean, 5 could work for them. I just see another quarterback team. I see 3 quarterbacks going in the top 3. Either that or Miami trades switches 3 and 5 with the Bengals, and Bengals get Sewell. And at that point, then it'd be a quarterback going right here. Or they trade back and a quarterback still. I don't see 3 quarterbacks, a 3rd quarterback lasting to number 5. That's my only issue with that. But I could see them getting up to 5. I really could. I want to try this just so I can see. Does that mess with what you guys see? No, it doesn't. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm splitting my screen now so I can kind of see what you guys are looking at. And also still trying to be able to read chat. So, okay. There we go. I can see now. All right, so this is a place where I could see Kyle Pitts going. If Micah Parsons was still there, I could see them going there. I also could see them getting one of these corners. They do want a quarterback too. I think they're going to wait until next year. So let's just get some weapons built around that quarterback of the future before he even gets there, and get him Kyle Pitts. Just nice and simple. All right, we'll play this one like Drew Lock stays for another year, because I think Drew Lock needs to stay for another year. I don't think it's worth it for them to get rid of Drew Lock at this moment. Just because he was a 2nd-round pick and he has shown flashes. Unlike Daniel Jones, he's shown flashes that he could be good. So keep him for another year. Maybe get a guy in the late rounds that you see value in, just to kind of push. But I like Drew Lock, so let's keep him there. He doesn't need any more weapons. He has really good weapons. You can give him another offensive lineman, but really you need to get some defensive help, because, I mean, that's what this team is built around, is defense. So keep shoring up the defense and hope your quarterback play improves. So you can get edge rusher or corner. Their cornerback room's not the greatest. So they could go out here and get Patrick Surtain, who I think is going to be a stud. Or if you don't want to do that, they can always come down here and get a guy like Gregory Rousseau to take over for Von Miller. You could even kick Von Miller inside, and now you have Bradley Chubb on one side, Gregory Rousseau on the other side to get some speed going, and Von Miller at an older age can play like a 5 technique. So now you've got Rousseau and Von Miller lined up against tackles and tight ends. They could get a little pass rush inside. Now it'd be more vulnerable to running games, but that's interesting. I actually haven't looked at their cornerback room to see if they really have anyone on there. And I know Kwity Paye wouldn't really match them because he's a 4-3 end. So let's give him Rousseau. I like Rousseau. I think he's raw, and I think learning behind a Hall of Famer like Von Miller and not getting the extreme, not having to play right away in heavy duty, and also not getting double teamed because you have Bradley Chubb on the other side will really, really help him grow as a pass rusher. So let's give him them and then go on to the Cowboys. All right, Cowboys will get Dak Prescott in. I have faith in that. So now they can get either someone to protect them, which would be Rashawn Slater. I don't advise Rashawn Slater in the top 10. I do like him, though, because he's versatile, but don't like that. Jalen Mayfield is probably your true right tackle. I still don't think that's worth it in a top 10 pick. So you move on to other positional needs. Their back end, ever since they lost Byron Jones, has been horrendous. Byron Jones played safety and also corner for them, so either of those fit. I think the only person that's worth a top 10 pick here would be Patrick Surtain. So, number one corner on lockdown. Move some other guys around, hopefully make it fit. But I think Patrick Surtain is going to be a stud. So let's put him there. I think we have made a couple different picks this time since the last mock draft we did, but I don't think very many key people changed, and I don't think that's going to happen until we start making some trades in here. So moving on, we can get an edge rusher, a linebacker, wide receiver, cornerback. I think really what they need is another inside offensive lineman. Linebacker would be nice. Someone like Wusu, or an edge rusher like Kwity Paye. I think reasonably here, if they don't end up trading for a quarterback, which I could see them doing, Kwity Paye is the answer. I still kind of want them trading up for a quarterback. I think they're not going to be able to do anything if people keep loading the box up on Saquon Barkley. You saw what it looked like with Saquon Barkley not there. They didn't have to load up the box, and Daniel Jones did not look good. So, you get a great edge rusher in a 4-3 system like Kwity Paye, or you get your future quarterback, which I passed right there. I'm still not a big Zach Wilson fan. I'm going to pass him up. I think they need to trade up and get a guy like Trey Lance, or if they're lucky, Justin Fields to be their quarterback. If not, they need to skip it until next year and just and keep building. They can trade back if they want, whatever they want to do, but I do not reach on Zach Wilson. I hope he proves me wrong, but I just don't like him. I'm not comfortable with it. All right, so Kwity Paye to them. Easy. Now this is a team that they could bring back their quarterback. They could trade for another quarterback like Wentz or Stafford, or they could get a guy like Zach Wilson, which the fan base really wants. I'm not going to give them Zach Wilson. I think they need a cornerback because they're not bringing back Richard Sherman. So get a guy that kind of resembles Richard Sherman. When Richard Sherman came out, he only had a year, I believe, at cornerback because he came in as a wide receiver at Stanford, and they switched his position late in his college career. So he was an athletic guy, a lanky guy, but he just was new to the position. That's kind of the same thing with a guy like J.C. Horn. I guess maybe Caleb Farley. I think Caleb Farley's pretty raw too. Let's look at this just to kind of double check. Yes. So Caleb Farley. That's who we're going to go with. We'll go with a guy like Caleb Farley. He's lanky, 6'2", but he's got long arms. And he was the same thing, a wide receiver, switched over to cornerback, athletic. The real problem with him is that he's kind of injury prone. So let's give the 49ers another injury prone player. Going into 13 is the LA Chargers, who they don't have a coach. I don't think they have a general manager right now either, but they do have a stud quarterback and some good defensive pieces. So, what they need to do while they have Keenan Allen still as on the outside, and while they have Mike Williams on a franchise tag, is shore up that offensive line. You've got Austin Eckler, you've got a couple other key running backs that can spell them, so they don't need a running back. Let's get a guy like Rashawn Slater, who's long, 6'7", can play tackle, but I think what he's best suited for is Are you able to show a quick bio for each player that gets selected? Yeah, I can do that. That's easy, Brandon. Let's do it. So Rashawn Slater, he's a guy who's long. You look at him, 6'4", not as long as I actually said he was, but he's versatile. So like they're saying in here, is that he can be a tackle, but he also can be pushed inside. So he can play a tackle in a West Coast passing scheme, but he's actually more of an interior offensive lineman if you want him to excel. So that's kind of his thing. I can view player comps and draft grades if you want. But we can go through my big board and start doing that kind of stuff once I make that in a couple months. But yeah, so he can be a tackle, but he can also be an inside guy. If you want to pause it, you can look at that as well. So we're going to go ahead and take a guy like Rashawn Slater. All right. So you got at 14 the Minnesota Vikings. They're needing front seven help pretty badly. They also need safety because Harrison Smith is getting old, and I don't know how much longer they have on his contract. But they're not going to get safety help at 14. They'll get safety help in the second or third round. So my thought process to go into this would be they had some defensive linemen in, but they just haven't had a kind of an anchor in the middle, like a nose tackle. They also haven't had the most reliable offensive line, but it's been reliable enough for Dalvin Cook to get through. So I'm really not too worried about offensive linemen. If I was, I would go with Elijah Vera Tucker just because he's a guy who can, again, he's kind of like we were just talking about Rashawn Slater. He's a guy that can play tackle. He played tackle this year because of the absence of Austin Jackson because he got drafted last year, but he's best suited as an interior offensive lineman. So this team's probably hard. They're either trading up or trading back. Yeah, this is the hardest one, I think. I like J Tufele. Let's read about him, and then we'll probably end up drafting him there. So he's 6'3", 315 pounds, redshirt junior, so that makes him what, 20? He'll be turning 22 right after the draft, so he'll be 21 when he gets drafted. So talking about schemes, he can be a two gap if necessary, but he's really a single gap penetrator, meaning as a two gap penetrator, basically they play head up. Here, I'll turn it to, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to put myself on here. There we go. So two gap penetrator, they go head up on an offensive lineman, and they hold the offensive lineman while getting leverage under him, and they have to play one side and also the other side in run scheme. So basically, you want someone that's big, strong in the lower body, so that they can get up underneath, get leverage, shoot up underneath the offensive lineman, and be able to control him whichever way they need to go because they have to guard two gaps. As a single gap guy, you just need to be explosive off the ball. You still need to be able to get some leverage, have a little bit of strength, but basically you're just shooting one gap or the other gap. And so you won't have to leverage the guy in front of you. So let's put it back just to this so you don't have to look at me, and we have better, you'll be able to read the players better too. Oops, if I can pull it up. There we go. So he's basically a three technique kind of guy. And I guess he can be a one technique as well. We can go over the techniques another time, I guess, just because I kind of don't want this to go too long because the CFP is in 20 minutes. I don't really care about missing the first half of it though, but so this guy is basically just going to be a weak side defensive lineman in a 4-3 scheme. But I do like him. He's very powerful. He shoots gaps effectively. So let's add him to that defensive line that they've got over there. Okay. Now, what Brandon's been waiting for, we've got the Patriots pick. So they can either go with a tight end, which is way back there, Pat Fryermuth. I wouldn't suggest it at 15. Go with a defensive lineman. I don't think they need edge rusher. I do like what they have on the edge, but they could always use some to spice things up. You get weapons because they have probably a bottom three weapons, wide receivers, and tight end core combined. Um, I mean, they could help out. It says linebacker here. They could get another linebacker, but they've got guys coming back like Hightower that opted out this year. So I'm not too worried about linebacker, especially with a guy like Owusu Koromoa. He's nice because he's a versatile linebacker. He's kind of like a safety linebacker hybrid. Um, but they don't use safety linebacker hybrids. I mean, they've got Kyle Duggar kind of in that role, like Jarrett, and they've got not Jeremy Chin, Patrick Chung coming back that was opted out as well. So there'll be those two kind of guys. They need a guy that kind of replaces that edge linebacker hybrid system. If you really want to go after a guy like that, and a guy that kind of fits that, if you don't want a weapon, which I know Brandon loves Devonta Smith, so we'll probably go after a guy like that. But if you wanted a defensive guy, Joseph Osai is your guy. Let's look at Joseph Osai really quickly from Texas. He's a junior. They don't have his birth date, but I'm sure he's 21 years old. So, oh man, I thought this would be a little bit better. So he's a 3-4 outside linebacker, meaning that he's going to be a stand-up edge rusher that can drop back in coverage as well. What they would think is he's a spot dropper, meaning that he can do it, but most likely you want him standing up and just basically rushing the passer or containing for run support as well. You can have him dropping back occasionally in the slant windows, but you don't really want him dropping back too often. He's raw, but he's a freak. If you put on his tape, he's a physical freak. So that's why I'm big on the guy. Top 15 pick, kind of reaching unless you just are expecting to hit the moon. So I think the easiest guy to pick here is just a Ja'Marr Chase or Devontae Parker. I know Brandon likes Devontae Smith, so let's give him Devontae Smith. Let's read about him. Heisman, right? Do they have that in there yet? He's a Heisman winner? No. So Smith's an ideal Z receiver, versatile, play along the boundary of an X. I don't think he should be an X. I like what they say about the Z receiver. Z receiver is basically just the number 2 guy. Helps out run defense and pressures the quarterback. Yeah, I mean that is something you guys need. It is a pretty deep class though, so I'm thinking in the second round, you guys would be able to get someone else just like that. He's a freak, but again, he could also end up being a bust just because of how little he's played and he's had some injuries as well. But just looking back at it, you guys could get a guy like Jason Owen, who I think is an even better freak athletically. He's extremely fast. He's extremely raw, and he's got more length and more size than Osai. So I think this is your guy. Right here. This is your guy. He's a little bit of a project. He'll be your second round pick. But Jason Owen from Penn State. That's your guy you need to look for in the second round, man. That's the guy. Yeah, so going back to looking at Devontae Smith, if you line him up in the slot, it's money all day. But really X receiver is kind of where I see him being most of the time. Meaning I'm sorry, not X receiver, Z receiver. X receiver is going to be your primary outside receiver. Sometimes they'll line him up alone. Z receiver is going to be on the other side, so he'll be on the side with the tight end or with the slot receiver usually as well. So usually that guy doesn't really get as Usually he's not as big, but he can create some separation. So I think if you line him up in the slot 24/7, you're gonna be very happy about that result as well. Going to 16 with the Cardinals. Cardinals, I think first what they have to do is they need to fire Cliff Kingsbury and bring in a guy like Urban Meyer, Dan Mullen, someone else that can run a spread offense and actually knows how to call plays. Cliff Kingsbury, his offense has been really good. Like it fits the style of Kyler Murray, but Cliff Kingsbury as a coach, a developer, a play caller is bad. You can tell from his college days as well. So that'd be the first step. That's not going to happen at least for another year, maybe two. So secondarily, they need to get some defensive help or another running back because Kenyon Drake is brought back. I think he was brought back on a 1-year deal. So either keep Kenyon Drake or get another running back. I would go for if they're going to get a running back, it's going to be Travis Etienne. If they're going to get a cornerback, obviously J.C. Horn is the next guy up, or a guy like Eric Stokes, who I really like. Actually, kind of fits their system a little bit better. Let's make things interesting. Let's give them Travis Etienne just because no one's mocked Etienne up this far. So let's read a little bit about him. He's got great burst, contact balance, makes big plays happen. He's explosive, also disciplined, doesn't try to make too much happen and put his team in bad position. He's grown as a wonderful receiver, so he's kind of like a satellite back. That's why I'm saying in this scheme he's going to be magnificent. His doesn't really say it in here, but his ball carrying vision's not too impressive. He still needs to work on seeing the holes quicker and adapting to it, but he's really good. I think that he fits the scheme phenomenally. I'm actually curious to see who the player comp is. So you guys can't see what I just clicked on, but player comp. They don't have a player comp up yet, so that stinks. Yep, no, they don't have a player comp up. My player comp for him was Alvin Kamara, though. It's just a simple player comp. Yeah, let's give him Travis Etienne. Let's spice things up a little bit. I think he can be the first running back off the board. My number one running back is Najee Harris. But if there's a team that wants to run spread like that, I think Travis Etienne's a better option. And he's also faster. Najee Harris is going to run a 4.6 if he's lucky, 4.55. So just things kind of like that. Next, is Kwity Paye still? No. Who did I give? Darn it. Okay. I was going to say Kwity Paye to the, what are they called? The Raiders would actually be really good. But he's gone. So they can get a little bit more inside linebacker help. They traded for Raekwon McMillan from Miami. And he's just not very good in pass protecting. He's also struggling a little bit in run support. So they can get a number one middle linebacker, Zaven Collins, who's a freaking beast. I think that's the first guy I'd look for them to get. I mean, Joseph Osai doesn't fit their scheme. They can also get interior line help. Vera Tucker, who's good, but their offensive line's not terrible right now. What they really need help with is linebacker. So, yeah, I think this one's probably the easiest one we've had in the last 5 picks. Zaven Collins, which Miami's coming up next, so that's a little disappointing. But, yeah, so high school, he was a starting quarterback and linebacker / safety. And so, doing both of those, he can read quarterbacks pretty well, playing both of those. So that's awesome. But then he went to Tulsa. I don't care about that kind of stuff. His ideal role is a starting linebacker, giving opportunities to pass, rush the passer, drop back in coverage, play downhill, and in space. So multiple defense is where he's best unleashed. But I honestly, I see him as a can't miss player. This is one of my can't miss players is Zaven Collins, just from what I've seen. So we're going to go ahead and put him here to the, I almost called them Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, so Miami's back up on the board. Only 2 wide receivers have been taken, both Alabama guys. So we got a franchise Hall of Fame tackle, and we'll end up pushing Robert Hunt inside to guard, and that's going to help out our offensive line a lot. So now we can get one more piece of the offensive line by getting, a center, or we can help out with the weapons that we really, 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 really need. Owusu Koromoa is here still. That's going to hurt me to pass up because I really, really like him, but we do need wide receiver help. Let's look at wide receivers. Let's see what there is. Bateman's still here. Bateman's really good. Ja'Marr Chase, I think. I hope I don't know. I don't really like him. A lot of people do. I mean, he's got the height, weight, speed characteristics. He just has so many drops, and it seems like some of his routes aren't crisp. Rashad Bateman's just not fast, but he's got great hands, great route running ability. Terrence Marshall, I really don't know too much about. Kadarius Toney's a beast, but again, these guys. So these guys, Kadarius Toney down. These guys, Daz Newsome. I'm not a big Seth Williams fan. He kind of reminds me of Preston Williams, Devontae Parker type. We don't need that. So, but these guys down. I mean, you get them in the second, third round, and they're going to be really good for your team. So I'm gonna just go ahead and go back and get Wusu. I can't get away from Wusu. He's so good, and he plays that multiple for us. The only issue is he's not gonna be very good at run stopping. So we'll have to address that later on in the draft as well. I think Zaven Collins is the pick that we would want to make here, but I don't know if he'll fall to us. If he falls to us, that's great. So let's see. He's explosive. I hate reading, man. All right, so that's just about him. So his ideal role is going to be a base 4-3 will linebacker with 3 down defenders who move to box safety and sub packages. So that's not what Miami runs. Miami kind of runs more of a multiple defense, so they can go to a 4-3 at time. And if they go to 4-3, he will be a will linebacker. But they really do like running out of their big nickel is what I like to call it, just the big nickel. So they have an extra safety in for that linebacker, or they'll run a 3-4 base. So if it's a 3-4 base, he's probably going to be on the field very limitedly, or he's going to be playing kind of like a second linebacker, second safety role. That's the only thing I don't see him being effective in, is if we have to stay in that 3-4 base. But if we're in a big safety, he can play that second safety, or just a second linebacker that's in there. But I do like him. I hope we could find a way to get him on the field. More I read about it, though, man, I don't know. Yeah, let's just go away from that. Let's read about Ja'Marr Chase. Man. So he's 6'1", 208. He'll probably come into the combine 6'1", 202, just because he wants to run a little bit of a faster time. But yeah, he came in and just had a heck of a season last year as a true sophomore. Let's see what his comps are. And he also sat out half this year, didn't he? I believe he did. He fits all schemes, and he should be a number 1 receiver. So if he's the number 1 receiver, you move Devontae Parker to that Z receiver. Sure, let's get Ja'Marr Chase here. I don't think I've ever drafted or comped Ja'Marr Chase to Miami. Let's do it. I'm not too happy about it, though, but whatever. Washington needs a quarterback. Zach Wilson is still sitting here. I could see Zach Wilson going here, but what I really was thinking Washington was probably going to be looking at would be in the second round a guy like Desmond Ritter, who they already took off because he decided he's coming back. Michael Penix is coming back as well, so I don't know why he's on there. But they could get a guy like Zach Wilson or just help out on that offensive line. They've already got defensive line. Yeah, I really hate Chase, man. I don't know why. I don't know why I do. I don't know if it's because he's from LSU or because I remember just seeing him drop a bunch of passes. I don't like him. I don't know why. But he's on the team now, so whatever. I think we'll just go Zach Wilson here. A lot of people have Zach Wilson in the top 10. I'm not as comfortable with him there, but at 19, I think that's kind of a better spot for him. Okay, so Chicago, they need offensive line help. They also need wide receiver help because it's been a full year where Allen Robinson has been asking to re-sign, and they've refused to go into any contract talks with them. So they're going to let him walk. They can get another wide receiver, but they really need a lot of help on offensive line. So if you want tackle, Jalen Mayfield is really just a right tackle. Here, I forgot to do this. Let's look at Zach Wilson. He's 6'3", 210. He's really, really, really skinny. He runs around. He's only a first-read quarterback. He still has trouble. His arm strength isn't that good. He's short. All right. Did you guys learn about Zach Wilson? Perfect. So Jalen Mayfield, if you really want a right tackle, I think he'd struggle on the left side, but he could always play there. Vera Tucker, for some reason I can't get his name all the time. He can play both sides, left and right. He's more comfortable on the left side. He played left tackle this year, played it really well, but I think he's better off playing, yes, left guard, exactly. Zone blocking scheme, he's athletic enough to adapt to any scheme. So I like him as well. I think he's a can't miss player as well. He's up there with Zaven Collins for me as can't miss players. But again, if a team wants him to play tackle, he might not be the best tackle. He's more of a guard anyways. But they need both, so let's give them Vera Tucker for some adaptability and some flexibility in the rest of the draft for them. All right. So now we have the Indianapolis Colts. They definitely need a quarterback. I think they're going to try to make a trade for one. Rumor is Frank Reich really likes Carson Wentz because he was the offensive coordinator for him. So, and also there's really no quarterback that could go here other than a guy like Trask or Mac Jones. So looking at the rest of their needs, this roster is pretty solid. They do need corner help. They could always get another wide receiver, but at this moment, I don't really think they need one in the first round. They have Paris Campbell coming back. They have Zach Pascal as the number 2, and they got Michael Pittman last year in the draft, who's still trying to develop a little bit. So on top of having T.Y. Hilton, who's older. So I don't really think they need wide receiver in the first round. They could always get a tackle, but really I think they need a little bit of defensive help, and corner could go a long way. Looking at J.C. Horn, he's a longer guy. So he's longer, but he's stockier. He's physical, but also does it say anything in here about his injury issues? It does not say anything about his injury issues. Oh, and he misses tackles. But I do like J.C. Horn. I think he's the next best corner that is available. Ooh, other than Eric Stokes. I keep forgetting about Eric Stokes. I like Eric Stokes. He's kind of a one-year wonder at this time. He's kind of more of like a zone guy. Yeah, hard press, soft press, and bail type of guy. But I think Horn's probably the better one. Yeah, so the order should update, I believe, every Monday or every Tuesday, based off of everything. So everything should be updated except for 19 on. No, look, the Steelers are down at 24. All right, so Seahawks lost. Yeah, no, it's up. It definitely updated. Yeah, you're right. So it is updated. This is the updated stuff, and these are the guys that are left in the playoffs. So yeah, everything is updated. That's awesome. Going back though, yeah, let's just go J.C. Horn. Right, let's think better. So last time we did this, I remember the team was looking good. And we decided let's get a second running back that's like Derrick Henry. This time I don't think we're gonna end up doing that, just because there are some good edge rushers available. Trying to walk through this. All right. So Tennessee, I don't actually. I'm trying to think. I believe they run a 4-3, and so again, that's why Joseph Osai keeps dropping, is because a lot of teams that need edge help run a 3-4 defense, and that's not a scheme fit. He could always end up going somewhere like that, but it would just. I mean, it'd be hard for him to overcome that. So, let's look at interior defensive lineman. Where's the next one on here? They've got a guy like Jalen Phillips or Jason Owen. Those two guys would fit that 4-3. Interior defensive lineman there. Marvin Wilson there. Yeah, it's just not really worth it. This is my dude right here, Tyler Shelvin. Big fan of him. Look at this big boy. Big fan. That's a nose tackle right there. That's a two-gap principal nose tackle. Let's go ahead and reach. You know, they're a playoff team. They got a couple more years of playoffs, so they can go ahead and reach. Let's get them Jason Owen, who we've already talked about. Extremely athletic, extremely raw. He's got length and tools. He's explosive, bends well, and he's got room to build onto his frame, so he can even get heavier and stronger. He's built for a 3-4 outside linebacker, but they don't say he can play a 4-3. So let's go with him because I know he's a 4-3. Yep, 4-3 edge, but he can play both, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, he transferred there from UCLA. He's injury prone though. He hasn't played very many games, but he's looked pretty good. Let's get them this. Who cares, right? Oh, whoops, I didn't make the pick. All right. Jalen Phillips. I don't think he'll go in the first round. I'd be very surprised unless he has good interviews or something, but you never really know, especially since I'm not a general manager. All right, next we've got the New York Jets. They already got their quarterback. Now they could get him protection. I really like that. Because they already got Mekhi Becton in the first round last year, playing that left tackle role. If you get Jalen Mayfield, who can play that right tackle, and you got your quarterback, plus you trade Sam Darnold for a second or even a third and fourth, man. Or you get a wide receiver for him. I think in the second round, they've got an early pick in the second round. You get a guy like Kadarius Toney or a dude that your quarterback Justin Fields really likes, Chris Olave. That's his number one receiver. He's a speedster, but he's also tall. Look at this guy, 6 foot 185. I think he's taller than 6 foot. He looks like it on film at least. But he's 6 foot 185, and he's so freaking fast. He runs routes well. He's got good football IQ. Jets have the Seahawks pick because of Jamal Adams, so they'll have next year's first round as well. But yeah, so if they get I'm putting Jalen Mayfield here already, just because, dude, you get that offensive line shirt up. They need a running back though, because LaMichael Pirine will be a nice number 2, but he's not a number 1. So big frame, athletic, has room to grow. He's a right tackle, man. He's used to that right side. His foot speed's nice, natural lower body strength, and of course he has some stuff where he kind of leans his head forward. That's a little bit of an issue, but he's strong, man. Definitely strong. I think he's going to be a really good right tackle. Okay, next we've got the Steelers. Steelers look very disappointing. I think they need to make a move for one of those quarterbacks that are going to be um, on free agency or on the trade block or draft one here because Big Ben did not look good. They got other issues, but quarterback they really, really need. And if you're telling me they only, they only got to use this first round pick on a quarterback, he'll be the quarterback for the next 10 years. I think they're all good. They've got some wide receivers. They got to re-sign James Conner or pick up a second running back. But right now, Kyle Trask is the pick here. Do we even have to look at his player profile? I'm curious on what they say. But let's see. Yeah, they talk about how he hasn't blah blah blah. Question his motives while he plays, even though because he loves the game. So you already know he loves the game. He's thick frame. He's a big, tall guy. I haven't seen any actual real pros in there other than his story. But we already know he's got a weaker arm. He's got a smaller hand size, which might be an issue in Pittsburgh, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. Can't put as good of touch on his balls, but he shreds defenses up with his mind, with his eyes, and he puts the ball in great windows. So, I mean, that's really all you need. It's a quarterback that can put the balls in the correct places. He's got the anticipation that he needs, where he doesn't need a big arm to be able to rocket things in there because he already knows 2 steps ahead of when he needs to throw, where he's going to throw it. So he'll throw balls before guys are even open, before they even make their cuts, because he knows it's going to be there. So it's one of those things where I really don't think his arm strength is going to be that much of an issue in the NFL. Moving on to the Jaguars' second pick, obviously they got Trevor Lawrence with the first pick. They have this pick from I don't remember who they got this pick from, but it doesn't really matter. They have the 25th pick. So they can get a tight end, another weapon, an offensive lineman, or an edge rusher. I think we're going with edge rusher here. Another offensive lineman would be really, really nice. A guy like Liam Eichenberg or a guy like Samuel Cosmi is a little bit has more potential to him as an offensive lineman. But that's right, the Rams. Yes, because they traded Jalen Ramsey. That's right. Good job, Brandon. I actually completely forgot about that. That was last year. This is their second pick from that two first round picks and I think a second as well for Ramsey. Yes. So you can get him a tackle to protect Trevor Lawrence, left tackle, because on the right side you got Juwan Taylor that they drafted 2 years ago from Florida. He's been looking okay. Or edge rusher. Joseph Osai is so freaking good. But K'Lavon Chaisson has kind of started to come into his own as well. So, I think I don't think so. I think you go after a guy like you go after either a tackle or another linebacker, which they don't even have linebacker on here. That's incredible. Let's go with tackle. Ooh, or you can get Eric Stokes on one side, and they've got CJ on the other side. Lock down that cornerback duo. There's so many moves that they can make right here. So it kind of depends on what they do in free agency. There's really no big tackles or corners on free agency, so obviously they're not going to do that. And I don't think edge is a big issue right now. So really what we're looking at is tight end Pat Freiermuth, linebacker Nick Bolton, who's a good run stopper, kind of athletic. Let's see what they say about him. pro-ready build. Yeah, explosiveness, blah blah blah, power in the rush game, or I'm sorry, in the passing game, and zone coverage. So he's a good coverage guy. He's got big body and can explode in attacking between the tackles. So he's a good Mike linebacker. They need a Mike linebacker to go alongside of Miles Jack. They need that second linebacker because they run a 3-4. So you can get Nick Bolton, or you can get a cornerback duo with Eric Stokes. Looking at this linebacker class, after Nick Bolton, I mean, with their second round pick, they can get Dylan Moses, who he's okay. He's kind of started to struggle a little bit. Super athletic. He diagnoses well. He's more of a 4-3 guy, and he's a will. So, let's just go with Nick Bolton. Actually, let's look at the cornerbacks first. All right. I mean, Sean Wade still down here, Asante Samuel. So there's some depth in the cornerback room. Who do you think's going next? I think more people would go after linebacker before corner. So let's get him Nick Bolton. All right. Now going to the Browns. Browns need. I just said that about corners. See, Browns need corner help. Because Owusu is he fits more of a will linebacker in a 4-3, and they run a 3-4. They don't even run a multiple scheme. So basically, he would be in charge of pass coverage and either um, rushing, like pass coverage or rushing the quarterback, or pass coverage and run supporting in like 3 gaps. And he's not big enough to do both of those type things. That's kind of why he didn't go to Miami. It's just because we run more of a 3-4 multiple type thing. He just wouldn't be utilized as well. And being a first round pick, he's going to have to go to a better scheme fit than that. They might take. Yeah, I like that here. You know what? We're just going to put him right there to the Browns. He'll fit their scheme quite nicely. They've got some good run supporting linebackers. They don't really have very many good pass coverage linebackers. So we'll put him there. That was an easy fix. Now I really like him as a prospect, and I want Miami to get him, but I feel like he would have to develop a lot more or get a lot bigger to be worth it if you run primarily a 3-4. Okay. So Tampa Bay. I think I'm going to do the same thing this time that I did last time. This team is pretty good head to toe, especially if they've re-signed Chris Godwin. They could always get another interior offensive lineman to go with Vita Vea. They could get another edge rusher because Jason Pierre-Paul and his 3 fingers, I think, are on a contract year, and he's also like 33 years old. So could always get someone there. Could get another running back, but I think the running back stable they have is good enough. So let's look for the future. They're good enough to get close to, if not win the Super Bowl this year, and next year is going to be quite the same. So let's build for the future with them, keep it long term, and let Mac Jones work underneath Tom Brady for at least another year before he takes over the reign. Mac Jones, if you want to read about him. Yeah, average arm strength, underrated deep passer. He does have a nice deep ball, but again, it's something he's going to be throwing at a 30 yards because he can't really get too far with that just because his arm strength's not that good. Rhythm-based thrower, periodic deep shots. So, I mean, he fits there pretty well, I think. Um, Except he's going to have to throw a lot more deep balls, but he does have a good deep arm, as in placement of the ball. So, moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. Get an edge rusher like Joseph Osai would be really good here because Matthew Judon, who's extremely good, is on a contract year, and they do not have the money to bring him back. So he'll be going to free agency, and he'll be getting a lot of money, even in a down COVID year. So Joseph Osai is one guy I think they could get. They do need a second receiver because right now it's ridiculous having um, a 160-pound Marquise Hollywood Brown as your X receiver. He'd do a lot better in the middle as a as your Y type or your slot receiver, and just burning seams or out routes or corner routes all over the defenses where he needs to be. So if you get a guy like Rashad Bateman, not as fast, but he's a technician, 6'1", 210 pounds. I assume he'll probably come in a little bit heavier, but he's got long arms, man. He catches basically every ball thrown to him, and he knows every single route. Um, he's a beast. They like him in the slot. I think he could work in the slot, but I also think he could be a fine X receiver for right now. I think he's more built as a Z guy, but this team just needs more weapons. Um, but I mean, looking down the line, you've got guys like Amon Ra, who could also be playing that outside guy. Um, but I don't know. I think uh, I think this one's more of a toss up. If you want to keep that run heavy and stopping the run mentality that they have, controlling the the trenches, you got to get a guy like Joseph Osai. Um, so we'll go ahead and do that. Just it's a deep wide receiver class. They can get two wide receivers in the second and fourth round, the third and fourth round, and I think they'll be okay. All right, so the Saints, I don't think they need to look for a quarterback in the first, second round this year just because they got guys like Taysom Hill and also Jameis Winston, who's probably the starter. They need another weapon and they need linebacker help. So if Wusu was here, Wusu Koromoa, I think he's a good fit here. Also, just a gadget guy like Kadarius Toney works here, or a speedster like Olave works here. I mean Rashad Bateman is another good receiver, but they've got Michael Thomas, who's not the quickest, and is just a good separator already on the team, so that really wouldn't do much having two of the same guys. So we'll go with Kadarius Toney. Here, let's read up about him. He really got his routes. Whoops. He cleaned up his routes last offseason, decided to come back, and I think that really helps him. So yeah, he was a two-sport athlete. He was a quarterback. We all know this. He's a slot receiver, continues to improve every season in Gainesville. He's much more satisfying than his size indicates because of the electric with or without the ball. Ceiling as a route runner is a bit limited, but he was highly effective with the packages that he was able to run. And again, last year he wasn't very good. We all know this. At running routes, he probably only had about two routes that he could actually run, which was a go, a post slash corner, or just a bubble, and that's all he could really do. This year he's been doing out routes. He's been doing comeback routes. He's got more routes that he's doing, and he's running them a lot better. So if this is your slot guy, you can put him in motion, you can put him in the backfield, and then you've got Taysom Hill as well that you can be running out there. I think he really fits this scheme, and I think Sean Payton would have a lot of time scheming up plays with him, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and Taysom Hill. So we'll give him Kadarius Toney sneaking up in the first round. I always got to mock Toney in the first. Um, Next, we have the Buffalo Bills, who I think by the time we do this, they're going to be 32 because they're going to have won the Super Bowl. So next time, we'll just look out for that. Um, they need a couple guys. They need a second corner to go with Trey White, but they really need a linebacker to take over for Matt Milano. Sadly, there's really no linebacker that could do that. I guess Dylan Moses is the next guy. Mocking Dylan Moses in the first round after he struggled as much as he has is kind of eh. Cameron McGrone, I've heard better things about, but I just haven't watched his film yet, so you won't catch me reaching on him. So really, other than that, you've got number two corner with Eric Stokes. For some reason, I could see being a Bill right now, just like kind of looking at him, or another tackle. help your franchise quarterback out who's been playing a lot. I think right now they really just need to help out this defense. Um, Read a little bit about Dylan Moses. Is extremely athletic. Ideal role starting Sam or Will in a 4-3 attacking, which is what they play. Um, Other than that, Eric Stokes, we already read about. Oh man, that's hard. I think they need someone to help out with that run game. So let's give them Dylan Moses and move on. Corner or wide receiver or tackle. They already have their franchise quarterback behind Aaron Rodgers. um, I can see Eric Stokes here too. That's crazy. I just see Eric Stokes everywhere. Um, I mean, tackle. They could hang out with tackle for another year or get a guy in the second. I think corner is really where they need. They've been asking for defensive help or wide receiver help. Oh man, Rashad Bateman there. I mean, they've got a guy like Devonta Adams that does the same exact stuff Rashad Bateman does. Let's just give him corner help. Might as well, right? Um, and then last but not least is the Chiefs. And we will give them Samuel Cosmi. Just finish things out very, very, very quickly. I think they need more interior offensive line. Creed Humphrey's only a center though is the thing. So Wyatt Davis is pretty interesting there. Josh Myers is a center. And then Alex Leatherwood I heard can play both. And I think he can play both as well. A power scheme though. They don't run a power scheme. So let's just go ahead and just give him Samuel Cosmi. Samuel Cosmi looks like he's gonna be tackle only is the thing. Yeah, so he'll be a right tackle in zone blocking, which is a zone blocking scheme. So can't Samuel Cosmi. Whoops, who did I hit? Messed up. It's still Samuel Cosmi. All right, so we have finished mock draft. We'll save it. Yes, log in, please. Thank you. Mock draft. Monday mock draft 2.0. All right. So that is another installment of Monday mock drafts. I think next week, whenever we do this again, that's a little too. There we go. That's much better. All right. I think next week, whenever we do this again, we're gonna add some trades to it. So that should make it slightly more interesting. And we should get different results because as you see, it looks like the top 5. I don't think it changed. Excuse me. I don't think it changed since last time. So, but that's okay. All right. I think we'll come on here in a couple days too and just talk about the wild card weekend. It looks like Toby and my predictions weren't very accurate. I think we were 2 for 8. Right, that would equal the right amount of games. 2 for 8. So, yeah, we'll probably come in here and do another show in a couple days. But this was the mock draft. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you next time. Peace.